hands, these hands that are shedding innocent blood. And when you talk about innocent blood, from the womb to the tomb, I want to take you to a moment from a recent radio program where we had the president of MOB's SAD, Mothers of Black Sons Standing Against Death, Miss Yolanda Harrison and Elizabeth Jones. They talk about a movement that wakes up and assists these mothers and fathers who have had their sons and sometimes daughters leave us way too soon. So we'll take a break. I want you to just look at this group as we put our arms of love around them.
Live in the JoyNet studios at JoyNet Radio at JoyNetRadio.com, brought to you by the College of Aspiring Artists, and it's powered by Time to Consider at timetoconsider.org. It is the TCAA Presents broadcast with our host, visionary and founder. It is Arthur Hunt. Good morning, sir.
You know, that first segment, GDI, God damn it. 7 things, JC. There's many things associated with the number 7. 7 mountains. And God's number of perfection. Joining me in the studio is no stranger to what God is saying to us, but how God is using us to realign His creation. I want to welcome Yolanda Harrison. She is the president of MOB's MOB's Mothers of Black Sons MOB's SAD. Moms certainly saw it, and they're sad because they did. And that was in my spiritual subconscious, how much we are seeing, how much is just damnable. Moths standing against death. Sad. Yolanda Harrison, you can take your time as we think about what happened in your life. You're not just looking at it from your eyes only, but you've engaged a movement that other women, mothers, and the families of these tragic encounters with violence. Let's tell the people who you are, and then let's talk your story.
Yes, my name is Yolanda Harrison, like the Reverend said, and my son Danny Sprawling was murdered in November of 2018, and I can actually say that was the worst day of my life. I couldn't imagine before that day anyone going through that kind of pain. I've known people who had lost a child, and I sent my condolences, and I said, oh, I bet that's an awful pain. Well, it was worse than awful. It's not even a word to describe how it feels. So I knew then, and I after doing, getting with other moms and meeting mothers and who were struggling like I was with our grief and our pain, and I got to thinking, okay, why isn't anyone talking about the #1 killer of black males ages 1 to 44? Why isn't there an organization supporting those grieving mothers or grieving family members who has to go through this daily? Every day, about 30 black males are murdered in the United States. Who's there supporting those 30 families? Who's there supporting those 30 mothers who have to cry out in agony, who are hurting and who are in pain and don't know what to do, who to turn to? So another mother, Elizabeth Jones, and I decided, let's start a movement, let's start an organization to acknowledge those mothers. So we started MOB SAD, Moms of Black Sons Standing Against Death. And it's just not for moms of black sons, it's for all mothers who have lost a child. But we target black sons because they are killed more than anyone else in this nation. So we need to figure out a way to combat this epidemic that is hurting so many families. It's the elephant in the room that no one wants to talk about. We don't address it. We fight, we protest for everything except for the death of black sons at the hands of other black males.
Why do you think this goes without the attention that you and MOBs SAD are emphasizing? How can something so large be removed from the equation of problem solving?
Well, because let's start with the media and how the media has taught all of us, even in the black community, to desensitize ourselves to the death of black males. No other person is killed and they are victim shamed. Every time a black male is killed, we pull their records or we look for something negative about them. Even though they are innocent victims, the majority are innocent, not doing anything wrong, their lives are taken, but we still try to find something bad about them. Everyone else can, any other person of race, gender can lose their life, and no one tries to justify their death.
So this stigma
is a stigma
that has been stamped on blacks way too long. It's another inroad when we look at the black male that is being violently removed. So to get this stigma, which is unfair, as you say, has support from the media, our movement jointly comes from biblical oversight, the report of God. And God created all of us to have a life that has opportunity to be fulfilled. And these moments that you're talking about are taking our sons and daughters out way too soon. So where are you in the movement as it relates to getting more people informed and more women especially who has this umbilical cord that is still connected after birth? When you cut the cord, the umbilical cord, you don't cut the cord of the flow from the mother to the son. It's always there. And these moments want to come and sever or to cut that bond. You're fighting. You're fighting a good fight. Tell us where you are, how long has MOBs SAD been operating, and how we can get more people to understand and join.
MOB SAD officially started in February of this year. And so what our mission is now to convince moms, so many mothers out there who have lost their sons, that your son didn't deserve what happened to him. I personally I've seen, not just think, but I know for a fact that a lot of these mothers have allowed the media to get in their head to think that, well, maybe my son really did deserve it. And they feel like, why should I fight? Why should I allow his voice to be heard? Because he was human and he deserved to live. He had a right to life, just like as if we all do. Everyone has a right to life, and so did your son. And once we convince these mothers that your son deserved to be here, he deserved to live, he didn't deserve to have his life taken, he's no less than anyone else, and then I think that the movement will be a lot stronger. And if I can get our communities to start seeing that also, to stop treating our black boys as if, oh, well, he probably deserved it, so we don't have to feel the pain of the mothers, or so we can just write him off. Once we get everyone on board to realize that they deserve to live, they don't deserve to be treated less than, then the movement will move forward.
So we're looking very closely, GDI.today, God damn it. hands that are shedding the innocent blood. Devin was just getting into the space of manhood, rites of passage from boyhood to manhood. And your life is never going to be the same.
No.
He won't be there for the birthday, the Christmas, Thanksgiving, Mother's Day. This is multiplied. You say, the research says 30 black men per day.
And that number is increasing.
Are being removed violently. God damn it. That's the highest authority that looks at what he created. It says stop. I hate it. So let's go another layer. You are working on, and I like what you said, it's a specific focus on the moms, the mothers of black sons, but not limited. This is an area that has, you use an epidemic, I use pandemic, and in the proportion from Arkansas across America, you know, the pandemic of the virus, billions of dollars engaged everyone to do something, to stop something that you couldn't see. Nobody could see the virus, but yet we were putting on masks and gloves. I mean, you just think about everything we did. Some of it, when you retrospect, makes no sense at all. But what made sense was, if the virus being real, how do we keep ourselves from being contaminated? How do we safeguard our families? How do we get out of this as safe as we can? I'm going to ask you a bold question. Moms say, what proportion of support compared to COVID-19 pandemic is coming your way now, or coming in support of the various movements that's here to stop this hate and violence? Are we at that level yet where we got people just saying, hey, we want to support you, we want to make this a true movement? Where are we in the mobs setting?
We have very few people locally. We haven't even reached the national level, but we very few. And I really appreciate those few who are on board with us to help us with this movement, because we want this to be a national movement, because it's a national problem that nobody wants to address. It's like nobody wants to touch this problem. Let's let the young boys die off, because according to numbers, black males are an endangered species. What do we do with our endangered species, our bald eagles? They're protected. They're protected by wildlife, but our black males are protected.
They're pressing charges now. Those who want to Google the wild eagles here and across the nation, if you are caught, so an animal compared to a human being,
exactly,
really
has more protection.
It should not be in the same conversation. Not that the animals are irrelevant, but when it comes to a child that has been given God's purpose, and we're just removing them like a fly, like a rodent, like an insect. How do we increase the value of these sons and daughters from the mob's position? As you stand against death, I want you to share a few things that we can do to make the value. We're approaching, this is the Mother's Day holiday. Tell us a few things that we can do to increase the value, to get this stigma out of it.
Well, first we need to start within the community. We need to start from the time they're young men. Like we need to start increasing, work on a graduation rate for our black girls. It's 5% of the population is responsible for over 50% of the murders in this nation. That 5% are usually those young boys who have dropped out of school, have come from a broken home, or even in a foster care system, but someone failed them along the way, and they became broken boys to broken men. And it's a small group that's responsible for so much of this, because the system, they go into prison usually, and they usually get out, and they're doing it again. It's a certain, it's just one small, it's a 5% group. It's a 5% of the population that's responsible for the majority of these homicides.
So when we have in a community analysis, it's a small percentage that are causing the violence. In that small percentage, but even a greater percentage that has this mindset of minimizing, marginalizing these black sons, these black boys. They may not, sometimes I say people don't have the bulldozer to go and just disrupt buildings and things that are being, I would say, assigned to a demolition force. We don't own these, but we're the ones jumping behind the wheels and using the bulldozer to do the demolition and the damnation of these children. So you've got a group that's doing it, but you've got a large group that's, creating the mischief and stirring it up. So how do we take all of this and bring remedy from mobs say?
We can start by, one thing I know the black community can do, we can't protest. If we take that same energy where you have tens of thousands of blacks who protest against violence against a black male, against police, that police officers cause, which, my heart goes out to anyone that's been murdered by a police officer, but that number is only, we average about 30 a year of black males that are killed by cops, whereas we have close to 6,000 black males a year killed by other black males. So we can take that same energy of those thousands of people that protest those 20, 30 murders and put it towards those 6,000 murders, we can bring that number down. Because it starts within our community, and I think we need to address that also. Because you're part of the problem if you're not part of the solution. So we as a community have to start within our own community.
So I offer confession on behalf of ministers. Sometimes we are assigned to churches, pastors, fivefold apostles, pastors, teachers, evangelists, and we don't do our job. And I think we all owe it to ourselves to be more responsible. How can we keep this high on the radar? I mean, every day we're saying we're going to stand against the death of these sons and the daughters that are leaving way too soon. I'm not so satisfied when we don't include all contributors to this, from our governmental, from our spiritual, from our educational. This is a war that's going to take an enlistment of everybody. I mean, when you talk about the pandemic of the virus, you had everybody engaged. Somehow we brought it to the attention where it was mandating, it was, you can't go here, you can't do that. We just got to move this to a higher resolution. So I want you to just challenge the 95% that are contributing, because the Bible says there's a sin of commission, commission, and then there's a sin of, you say it again, omission. So we're just looking, turning our eyes away from it. But God damn it, these things that are just prevalent, that are just magnified, and they are at pandemic proportions. So who all should be in this movement? And let's speak to them about signing up so we can do the optimal in mitigating.
We're going to start with every mother that has lost her child to gun violence,
Mm-hmm.
our voices should be first and foremost up front.
Mm-hmm.
Share our experience, because you just because someone watching on the news, but you don't see that crying mother's face.
Mm-hmm.
You don't see that grieving brother or sister face, or that father, face. You don't see that pain. You already see my hurt when my son was killed. You heard his name on the news, but you see how I was.
And you're not living it every day in absence. In your case, so the empathy and the continuity. This is what you hear today. This is what you're resounding today. Wake up, everybody, and get yourself in the mood. If God, who is the highest and the sovereign creator of everybody and everything, is saying, I hate it. When God says he hates something, what does that mean? Just from you hearing and knowing these 7 things, but God says he hates it. What ought we be doing?
We ought to do better, because if God hates it, then we have a responsibility to make a change. We're responsible. And like I said, he will hold us accountable for turning a deaf ear and a blind eye to it, because we have to do better. We have to stop this. We have the power to do it. We have the resources to do it. We're not a third world country. We're one of the richest countries. So this problem can be solved, and I guess the voices of those who need to be heard, again, just like the Black Lives Matter movement, their voices were in numbers. It took numbers for police brutality to be noticed. So why can't we come together and make this notice on a public level to show that, hey, this is a problem. Hey, we're tired of moms hurting. We're tired of dads and children hurting. We're tired of families being torn apart. And not only are you losing the one that passed away, but you got 2 or 3 filling up a prison system. So it's a double whammy. Because you got another mother who's hurting because she just lost her child, also to the prison system. So it's a lose-lose situation that we really should be opening our eyes to.
I hear so many news reports day after day, tragic, violence, mass shootings, and it's time for us to get a grip.
Yes.
And while we see this in legislation, you can't legislate love. You can give everybody a gun. You can do it. Just everybody's got a gun. If you take out these 7 things that create in the mind this evil doing, this wickedness, if we can treat that, mitigate, annihilate, I'm not going to pick up any weapon to do harm to anybody, because my value system is aligned with the biblical love one another, and it will keep me from walking and cooperating with these 7 things that God hates. We're layering this. God damn it. Hands that shed innocent blood. A heart that devises weak imagination. I was listening to a show, and the gun lobbyists and the associations and those who are into guns as a good thing. And I'm not going to go into all of that in this a particular moment. But the Word of God says we can kill with our tongue. We can put our mouth on something. And somebody go out and said, she did this, he did that, he say, she say, they say. And before you know it, somebody's going out to take a life or take lives. So as we talk about these 7 things, and we talk about what you're doing, let's call some women, mothers, to join your movement. Tell us how you want them to start signing on.
We're working on our Facebook page, our social media page. We will have that up soon, but if any mom is listening, she can contact me directly. Text me 501-349-6310. and I can give her all the information to get started and what our meeting times are, we meet, and what our future plans are for our organization.
So you started this in February.
That's correct.
And March, April, you had meetings. I was blessed to be in the February meeting, I believe, and then you had some tornadic activity in Arkansas. And March, you kept moving, some things just in the virtual, but you came out and did a session. What was the last session that you did?
In April.
That was April.
Yes.
And tell us about the group that's attending and some of the strength and feedback you're getting from there.
They are so ecstatic about it because they said that they didn't even care. Like, you know, we lost like you, so we don't ever even be positive about our goals. You know, we need that glorify them or speak life into, or speak positivity about them when they're, you know, when they're murdered. It's like they deserve it. It's as if they deserve it. You know, although my son didn't have a record, my son, you know, wasn't a criminal, had gone to college and everything. He was 20 years old, but it didn't matter. You know, it was still a negative picture painted of my son once he was killed. It took me. I made the change. I contacted the news and told them, no, I want you to know who my son was. So they had a lot of respect for me for doing that, and they came forward and wanted to know who my son was. Because if I hadn't spoken out and been his voice, they would have never known who he was. All they know was he was another black boy killed. So in other words, he possibly was in a gang or was a thug or, you know, the typical stereotype. But I took it upon myself and called every news station and told them I wanted to do a story on my son and let you all know who he was. And that's what they did. So I got his story out there. So everyone, because he's no longer here to speak for himself, but that was my job. And I told every mother, that is your job, to be your son's voice, to be your child's voice.
And I think the fact that you are advocating at such a high level of intensity, they regarded you kind of like the widow in the Bible. She kept pursuing the judge who did not fear God nor man, but she kept coming, she kept coming. The man said, you're going to make me lose my mind if I don't stop and see what this woman wants. So I see that as a biblical corollary to what you did and are doing. And this is providing the type of hope for the women and the families that are going through. I think one of the greatest challenges when you talk about the 5% that's doing this is a spirit of hopelessness. We don't feel we can go to our local community pastor. We don't feel we can go to the principals, the superintendents of the school. People got all these walls around them. And I saw Tyree Nichols' mom, Miss Vaughn, just weeping. And if we're not careful, what happened to her son, the autopsy came out that he was brutally killed. His brain was damaged to the point that he had brain death. And his mom, when they came by the house, said that, you know, he had been pulled over for a traffic violation, and he's in the hospital, but you can't see him now. And she said on record, I was at the National Civil Rights Museum when she spoke it. She said he was dead when they left. And the lies that were told from those who didn't know they were being monitored by a higher camera, but they didn't go to the highest camera because that's God who's got eyes watching over His creation. And when He watches over us, I can just see in the biblical record, sometimes people didn't see God, but they said, our eyes are on Him. We're going to look up and we're going to see Him. How important is this spiritual hope and healing as we continue to wake up the populace that's sometimes sleep and sometimes doing the minimum? I'll say this, there are many congregations and people don't belong to us. All of us belong to God. But this infusion of God and His Word, how important is that spiritual infusion, starting with you and then with others who are going to join the movement?
God is by far #1 in this movement. Without God, there would not be a movement. Without God, there would be no one sitting here. Because God has brought me this far. Because without Him, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't have the strength to do this. So God turned my anger, my pain, my frustration into hope that and strength, so I can do this. So it's all about God. Everything we do, it will be about Him and praising Him and keeping Him #1 in this mission.
I want to take a break and listen to a song from a young man in this Little Rock area. Our college was doing a treatment on a theme, Unstoppable Dreams. He came into the class. After the class, he says, I got a song, and I want you to hear it. And I want us to play this song, Unstoppable Dreams. It talks about these moments, and then there's some hope when we come out of it. Let's take a listen, and then we'll be back. More coming after this. GDI.com. Unstoppable dreams are here, and we want to help propel them to their destiny. That's your first time hearing that?
Yes, it is.
What do you think about that song?
I like it. I love the lyrics. The song. It was the story of his life and how he had hope, and he took his past and his past, and then lived that past, but he decided to have hope in himself and do better.
We want to dedicate that song to Mom, Sad, and talk to you later about that. May become one of the theme songs as you move through. What do you think about that?
Gotta believe. I like it.
Gotta believe. Unstoppable Dreams. That was from Playboy Shane and College of Aspiring Artists. We can certainly appreciate the biblical content that directs and guides. We've got just another moment, final segment. I want you to talk about your co-partner, your co-founding mother, Elizabeth. Tell us who she is and a little bit about her son.
Elizabeth Jones, her son, Quintarius Scott, his nickname is Peanut. He was murdered in 2020 at Twin Peaks. He was 2 months shy of graduating college. And he went to
Twin Peaks, just let those who listen.
That's a little restaurant that he and some of his fraternity brothers had gone, and I think they were going to go watch the game there. And so while he was there with his fraternity brothers from college, he accidentally stepped on another young man's shoe.
Wait a minute. Stepped on a man, somebody's shoe?
That's correct. Accidentally stepped on someone's shoe.
Here at Twin Peaks, which is a
public
bar, grill, restaurant,
yes.
Big screens, watch the game and things
Yes.
that move around the tables. But it's a good place. I've been there I love their wings. So he accidentally stepped on somebody's shoe at the table with him?
The young man was, I think, a brother to one of his fraternity brothers.
But they were at the same table?
Yes.
Okay, so yeah.
And as when he apologized, so the young man took his apology as him being sarcastic, and he decided he was going to go ahead and leave because I guess he saw the young man getting upset. So as he was leaving the restaurant, the young man followed him out, and that's when the young man pulled the gun out and shot him. It was once in the back of the head, and through the chest, in the back.
And we say to this conduct and this environment, it's a cultural thing.
Yes.
You know, for someone at a table, you step on a shoe, and then it goes from a shoe to a shooter.
Exactly.
Now, I'm just going to say this. If there were another ethnicity maybe dealing with the same challenge, and you stepped on my shoe or their shoe, and their dad have this company, this investment, stock portfolio, possible place in the company when you graduate high school, college, you've got a way up and out that's clearly in your mind. So your value system, what's important, stepping on my shoe or stepping to the stocks, the stock market. And if I know I've got the stock market ahead of me, the question is, will that give me a greater incentive to live and walk away from something than someone who may not have any strong hope for the future that's just permeating in their mind in that heat of the moment. So we've got some complexities, we've got some challenges, because when you hear that story, it's one of the saddest stories. But you can understand the value system. If my dad's got these big opportunities for me laying up, I'm not going to let minuscule things take me away from the greater value that I can see coming up the road. So Elizabeth Jones and her son and the group, as we go forward with this segment from the College of Aspiring Artists Presents, we are saying, God damn it. Give us some final thoughts, and if we got God with us, tell us what that means as we take it to the next level.
Well, first of all, if God is for us, who can be against us? And we have to keep God first. And I just wish everyone could just see that what the power in numbers does. It does a lot. It works miracles. But we just have to come together as a people. Black, white, doesn't matter what we call them, but we can come together. Like you said, 95% versus 5%. If we all stood up against that 5%, we can stop that 5%, or we can shut down the next 5% that comes along. Because every time that 5%, there's another, each generation does another 5% coming along. But nobody seems to want to stop that 5% or figure out a way to control that 5% from doing what they're doing.
We are here. The College of Aspiring Artists Presents. We've got coursework that's going to help transform lives. We've got strategistical leadership that's working with groups like MOB, SAD, and others. We look forward. We're going to be launching the YouTube coming out of here today, and people can hear and see you. We'll be sharing that. This is the College of Aspiring Artists Presents. We're launching the GDI, God Damn It. The book, the YouTube, and the strategies that bring us back to the God-ordained destinies. God.today. God damn it. GDI.today.
Thank you for joining us for another exciting edition of TCAA Presents, and it's of course brought to you by the College of Aspiring Artists. It's powered by TimeToConsider.org on JoyNet Radio and JoyNetRadio.com. Don't forget to get your book today at GDI.today, and you can enjoy learning and growing. Thank you, and join us again for TCAA Presents.